Have you ever felt like something is missing in your life, as if there's an invisible gap, a void that nothing seems to fill? Maybe you followed the path you were taught. Build a successful career, earn more money, find a great love, be recognized, respected, admired, and yet that sense of restlessness is still there. Steve Jobs, one of the greatest innovators of the century, reached the pinnacle of the business world. He created revolutionary products, amassed billions, and changed the course of technology. But on his deathbed, he left a powerful reflection. Material things can be found again. But there is something that, once lost, can never be recovered: time. He realized that everything he had pursued externally never brought him true fulfillment, and this doesn't happen only to billionaires or famous figures. How many people around you seem to be running endlessly, chasing something they can't even define? The big question is, what exactly are we searching for? And why, no matter how much we achieve, does that feeling of emptiness always return? Maybe the answer was never out there. Maybe the great truth we've been seeking was within us all along. Have you ever felt this way? Share your experience in the comments. I love reading and getting to know each of your stories. The mind, the maze that traps us. Most people live inside a mental maze without even realizing it. Our mind is like an untuned radio, constantly broadcasting thoughts. It tells us stories about who we are, what we should fear, and what we need to achieve to feel whole. But who is actually observing these thoughts? If you can notice your thoughts passing by, that means you are not them. Want proof that you are not your mind? Think about a difficult moment in your life. Now realize that this memory exists in your mind, but it is not you. The thought comes and goes, but you remain. And what if I told you that your true essence isn't in the endless thoughts that keep spinning? It's in the silent space between one thought and another. That's where you begin to access the truth. You were never separate from the divine. Have you ever looked up at the starry sky and felt an inexplicable shiver, or stood before the ocean and sensed that there was something greater there? That feeling is more than just an impression. Every culture, every spiritual tradition throughout history points to the same truth. The divine is not outside of you. The divine is within you. What you seek is already who you are. But if this truth has always been so accessible, why can't we see it? The paradox that keeps humanity trapped. The divine within us is like the sun hidden behind heavy clouds, and these clouds are not real. They are illusions created by fear, attachment, and the stories we tell ourselves. Stories that say, I need to have in order to be. I am what others think of me. If I lose everything, I will be nothing. But what if I told you that everything you've ever been searching for is behind those clouds, and that awakening isn't about gaining something new, but removing everything that is false? Society's illusion of happiness. Society conditions us to believe that happiness comes when we have more money, more success, more recognition. But true freedom doesn't come from accumulating more. It comes from letting go of what isn't real. The eternal inner conflict within you. There is a constant battle. The lower self, trapped in the material world, afraid of loss, ruled by the ego. The higher self, infinite, loving, rooted in peace, beyond the physical. The ego wants to convince you that you are what you own. You are what others think of you. You are your failures and successes. But your higher self whispers a different truth. You are eternal. You are love. You are one with all that exists. Which version of yourself will you choose? Will you believe in the lower self, which lives in fear and illusion? Or will you trust the higher self, which already knows the truth, waiting for you to awaken? The next step is in your hands. The hidden teachings of awakening. The greatest masters of humanity have always known this truth. Buddhists speak of nirvana, the state where the fire of illusion is extinguished. Jesus taught about the kingdom of heaven, not as a distant place, but as a state of unity and love. Sufi mystics speak of the annihilation of the ego, the point where only divine love remains. But this wisdom isn't reserved for saints or enlightened beings. It's a map for you. The question is, are you ready to follow this path? The first step: question everything you believe. If you truly seek the truth, you must start with one simple question. What if everything you believe about yourself is wrong? Since birth, you were taught that you are your name, your job, your history, your mistakes, and your achievements. But if all of that disappeared, what would be left? Who is the I that observes your thoughts? Who is the I that feels joy and sadness? Who is the I that longs for something more? Beneath the noise of the mind, there is a silent observer, and that is where your journey begins. The fear that keeps you trapped. Fear is the guardian of the portal to transformation. It whispers, if you let go of everything that defines you, only emptiness will remain. But ask yourself, isn't the emptiness already there? Haven't you already felt that something is missing? The courage to confront this fear is what separates the seekers from the asleep. Those who cling to illusion fall deeper into sleep. Those who break free from fear awaken. The choice has always been yours. The final obstacle, the inner battle. In the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna finds himself paralyzed on the battlefield. Overcome with doubt and fear, he hesitates. Then Krishna speaks. Act from the soul, not the ego. The battle is not out there, it is within you. When you begin to undo the illusion, something extraordinary happens. You feel lighter, as if you've carried a burden your entire life, only to realize you can finally let it go. You discover that the love, peace, and clarity you search for in the external world were always within you. And now comes the final question. Are you ready to let go of the weight? Or will you keep carrying a burden that was never yours to begin with? Peace, freedom, and love were always your natural state. They were simply buried beneath layers of conditioning and pain. This is why mystics speak of awakening not as a process of becoming something new, but as remembering who you have always been. This path is not about perfection. You will stumble, you will fall back into old patterns, and that's okay. It's part of the process. The lotus flower, a symbol of spiritual awakening, grows in muddy waters. But it does not avoid the mud, it uses it for nourishment. In the same way, your pain and struggles are not obstacles, they are the raw material of your transformation. The poet Rumi once wrote, "The wound is the place where the light enters you." So trust that even your pain has a purpose. The greatest obstacle, attachment. One of the most challenging parts of this journey is letting go. We cling to people, possessions, and identities, believing they will complete us. But as Buddha taught, attachment is the root of suffering. This does not mean you must renounce the world or stop loving others. It means learning to love without attachment. It means living without needing things to be a certain way. Imagine holding water in your hands. If you try to grip it tightly, it slips through your fingers. But if you hold it gently, it remains. When you begin to let go, life flows more effortlessly. The events that once seemed like random coincidences become daily occurrences filled with meaning. You start to feel a deep connection with everything around you. The rustling of leaves in the wind, the laughter of a child, even the challenges you face. This is the divine whispering to you. You were never separate. You are part of something vast and beautifully intricate. The veil of the ego. The ego is not your enemy. It is a creation of the mind, born out of the need for survival in a chaotic and unpredictable world. It begins to form in childhood, when we learn to identify ourselves as good or bad, worthy or unworthy, based on how others react to us. Over time, this identity solidifies into a narrative. I am this, but not that. I am my job. I am what others think of me. The ego survives through separation, defining itself in opposition to others and clinging to the illusion of control. It is like a mask, useful for navigating the world, but it does not reflect your true being. The problem arises when we forget we are wearing the mask. We start believing that the roles we play, parent, professional, friend, are all we are. And that is why, no matter how much we achieve, we often still feel empty and incomplete. The mask can never satisfy the soul, because the mask is an illusion, and the soul longs for truth. The illusion of fear and separation. An ancient Indian parable perfectly illustrates how the ego deceives us. Imagine you are in a dimly lit room. On the floor, you see a rope. But in the shadows, you mistake it for a snake and go into panic. The snake never existed. It was just a projection of your mind. The ego operates in the same way. It projects fears, desires, and insecurities and convinces us they are real. But when you shine the light of awareness on those fears, you realize they were never what they seemed to be. How to dissolve the ego. The first step is not to fight the ego, but to become aware of it. It's not about judgment or resistance, but pure observation. Next time you feel anger, jealousy, or fear, ask yourself, who is feeling this? Is it the infinite being within me, or is it just the ego reacting to a threat that may not even be real? You will start to realize that most of your emotional suffering comes from the ego trying to protect its identity or control the uncontrollable. The ego and time, trapped in the past and future. Another trick of the ego is to keep us stuck in time. It replays old wounds, keeping us drowning in regret. It creates imagined futures, feeding anxiety and fear. But here's the truth. The past is gone. The future has not arrived. The only reality is now, and the ego has no power in the present moment. That's why practices like meditation and mindfulness are so powerful. They teach you how to step out of the ego's narrative and into the unlimited awareness of the present moment. The game of comparison, the ego's trap. The ego thrives on comparison. It whispers, "You are better than them. You will never be good enough." But this is just a trap to keep you locked in the illusion of separation. The truth, there is no other. Just like waves are not separate from the ocean, you were never separate from anything or anyone. When you realize this, the ego's need to compete, prove itself, or judge others simply fades away. What strengthens the ego? Your attention. Have you ever wondered why the ego feels so real? The answer lies in your attention. The ego feeds on your focus, like a fire fueled by oxygen. When you believe in the ego's stories, you strengthen it. When you react to your fears, you feed it. When you seek validation for your identity, you expand it. But when you simply observe without attachment, the ego begins to lose power. Over time, its grip weakens, and you start experiencing life from your higher self. The ego doesn't die, it transforms. This process of disidentification can feel disorienting at first. The ego will resist, fearing its own dissolution. But remember, the ego doesn't need to be destroyed. It just needs to take its proper place. You don't have to eliminate it, just transcend it. The Tao Te Ching says, "When I let go of what I am, I become what I might be." The beginning of true freedom. When you begin to unmask the ego, something profound happens. Your reactions turn into responses. What once disturbed you loses its power over you. The weight you carried disappears, and then you finally realize, "I have always been free. I had just forgotten." Now let me ask you, what is still holding you back? When the ego dissolves, truth emerges. When you let go of judgment, compassion flourishes. When the mind's constant noise settles, a deep and unshakable stillness emerges. And in that space, the divine within you awakens, not as an abstract concept, but as a living, breathing reality. The path to dissolving the ego is not linear. Some days you'll feel free and expansive. Other days, the ego will return with force, trying to reclaim its dominance. Be kind to yourself in those moments. Every step, even the difficult ones, is part of the process. Remember the story of the butterfly. Before it can fly, it must struggle to break free from its cocoon. That struggle is not a setback, it strengthens its wings. You are going through a profound transformation, shedding layers of illusion to reveal your true essence. Trust that the universe is supporting you, even when everything feels chaotic or uncertain. The art of surrender. Imagine yourself standing at the edge of a mighty river. Its current flows with grace and power, carving paths through mountains and valleys, nourishing everything in its wake. Now, imagine yourself fighting against that current, swimming upstream with all your strength, believing that resistance will take you to a better place. Exhausting, isn't it? But that's exactly how most of us live. Clinging to control, resisting the natural flow of life, fighting the inevitable, yet true freedom lies in surrender. What is surrender? Surrender is not giving up, it's not passivity, and it's not weakness. It is an act of profound courage and trust, letting go of the need for control, releasing the endless demands of the ego, aligning with the natural flow of existence. When you surrender, you stop fighting the current and allow the river to carry you. That is peace. That is the path of the divine. Spiritual teachings on surrender. Every spiritual tradition honors the power of surrender. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna teaches Arjuna to renounce attachment to the results of his actions and trust in the divine plan. In Christianity, Jesus exemplifies surrender in his prayer, "Let thy will be done." Taoist masters teach us to live in harmony with the Tao, the eternal flow of life's energy. These teachings are not just philosophy, they are a map to liberation. The illusion of control. The first barrier to surrender is realizing that control is an illusion. We spend our lives trying to manipulate circumstances, people, and outcomes, believing that if we arrange everything perfectly, we will finally find peace. But think about it. How many times has your attempt to control everything actually brought you peace? More often than not, it only leads to frustration and suffering. Acceptance, the gateway to freedom. Surrender begins with acceptance. This does not mean you have to like everything that happens. It simply means stopping the resistance to reality. Resistance creates suffering. Acceptance allows you to flow with life instead of against it. Zen wisdom teaches, let go or be dragged. In moments of struggle, ask yourself, can I just let this be, even for a moment? Not forever, not for an hour, just now. The art of surrender, letting go to find true freedom. Imagine standing at the edge of a mighty river, its current flowing effortlessly, carving paths through mountains and valleys, nourishing everything it touches. Now, imagine yourself fighting against that current, swimming upstream with all your strength, believing that resistance will take you somewhere better. Exhausting, isn't it? And yet, this is how most of us live, clinging to control, resisting the natural flow of life, fighting against the inevitable. But true freedom begins with surrender. Can you release the need to control and simply allow? Surrender doesn't mean giving up. It doesn't mean passivity or weakness. It is a profound act of courage and trust, letting go of the illusion of control, releasing the ego's constant demands, aligning with the natural rhythm of existence. When you surrender, you stop fighting the current and allow the river of life to carry you. This is peace. This is the path of the divine. The greatest obstacle to surrender: fear. The ego fears losing control because it confuses surrender with annihilation. But here's the paradox. What you are letting go of is not your true self, but your false identity. What you are releasing is not real, but the illusions that keep you trapped. By letting go, you lose nothing real. In fact, you gain everything: the fear of death and the truth of life. One of humanity's deepest fears is the fear of death. But what if death is not an end, but a portal? Every spiritual tradition teaches this truth. In Buddhism, the wheel of samsara represents the cycle of birth, death, and rebirth. In Hinduism, moksha is the final liberation from this cycle. In Christianity, the resurrection symbolizes victory over death. Think of a caterpillar. For it, the end of its life seems like a tragedy. But by surrendering to the unknown, it transforms into something beyond its imagination. Death, whether literal or symbolic, is not an end. It is a transformation. To embrace the new, we must release the old. Every fear you face is a small awakening: the end of a relationship, the loss of a job, the fading of youth. Each of these experiences is a form of death, but they are also invitations to rebirth. To embrace death is to embrace life. To trust the flow of existence is to trust that every ending hides a new beginning. Cultivating trust in life. To deepen the practice of surrender, we must cultivate trust. Trust in yourself. Trust in life. Trust in the divine. This is not blind faith. It is an inner knowing that life is both intelligent and benevolent. The seasons change effortlessly. The rivers follow their course, and your life is unfolding exactly as it should. A practice for strengthening trust. Prayer and intention can anchor us in surrender. You don't need to follow a specific religion. Prayer is simply a dialogue with the divine, both within and around you. In moments of doubt, try saying, "I don't have all the answers, but I trust that life is guiding me." Say it with your heart, and then let go. Surrender requires patience. The ego craves instant results, but the soul understands that transformation takes time. Just like a seed buried in the soil, your awakening is unfolding, even when it seems like nothing is happening. The universe is never in a hurry, yet everything is accomplished. Surrender is the art of saying yes to life, even when it doesn't look the way you expected. And when you truly surrender, life stops feeling like a battle. It becomes a dance. You stop fighting, and you start living. Are you ready to remember who you truly are? What if everything you've been searching for, all the answers, all the peace, all the love, has always been within you? What if the spiritual journey isn't about becoming something new, but about remembering who you have always been? Close your eyes for a moment, take a deep breath, feel the stillness between your thoughts. In that silent space, something begins to emerge, a subtle presence, infinite, yet familiar. That is the divine essence within you. It was never far away. It was never something to be attained. It was always here, waiting to be remembered. Rumi Said it best: the soul has its own ears to hear what the mind cannot understand. When the noise of the mind fades, the illusion of separation dissolves. You realize you are not isolated. You are not disconnected. You are like a wave in the ocean of existence, not separate, not alone, but inseparable from the whole. And that realization brings a deep peace, because you no longer need to struggle. You no longer need to search for your place in the world. You were already home all along. With that peace, clarity emerges. In the middle of chaos, it's easy to lose sight of what truly matters, but in silence, the fog lifts, and the answers you've been seeking come naturally, not from the mind, but from the deep wisdom within you. That is the voice of your higher self speaking, and all it wants is to guide you back home. The practice of silence. But here's the secret. Stillness is not a final destination. It's a path you return to again and again. There will be days when everything feels calm and aligned. and others when life's storms will try to pull you away. But remember this, peace never disappears. It is always there, just beneath the surface. The more you cultivate this peace, the more it seeps into every part of your life. Your relationships deepen because you are truly present. Challenges transform because you see them through wisdom, not fear. Life stops being a struggle and becomes a dance with the divine. Are you ready to live from this truth? What happens when illusions fall away? What happens when the storms pass and stillness settles in? When all illusions dissolve and only the essence of your being remains? This is not the end of the journey. It is the beginning of true life. To live as your true self means letting go of all false identities, the roles, labels, and stories you carried like masks to feel safe. These masks were never who you really were. They were only the ego's armor, trying to protect itself from life's uncertainty. But now, you see the truth. You are not the wave, you are the ocean. You are not the shadow, you are the light that casts it. This realization is not intellectual. It changes how you see, how you feel, and how you live. And with this new vision, you understand that you never had to prove your worth. You were never separate from the divine. The home you always sought was never outside of you. It was you all along. When you align with your true self, the present moment is no longer something to endure. It becomes something to fully experience. Every breath becomes a prayer, every action a meditation, every interaction an opportunity to express love. And most importantly, fear loses its grip on you. This doesn't mean you will never feel fear again. It means fear will no longer control you, because now you know death is not an end, but a transition. Losses are not failures, but invitations to grow. Changes are not threats, but gateways to new possibilities. Love becomes your compass, not a conditional love based on how others treat you, but an infinite, unwavering love, because it is who you truly are. And when you live this way, something incredible happens. You become a light in the world. Trusting the flow of life. The more you surrender to this truth, the more life flows effortlessly. This does not mean that challenges disappear, but it does mean that your relationship with them changes. You stop resisting, you learn to trust, you understand that everything has a purpose. This is what Taoist sages call Wu Wei, acting without effort, responding to the moment with wisdom instead of reactivity. You begin to see yourself in the eyes of others. When you give, you realize you are giving to yourself. This is the foundation of compassion. The Hindu sage Ramana Maharshi once said, "Your own realization is the greatest service you can offer the world." Because when you awaken to who you really are, you awaken the world around you. Your presence becomes a living reminder that peace is real, love is real, freedom was always here. Living as your true self. To live as your true self does not mean escaping the world. It means being fully present in it. Whether you are cooking a meal, comforting a friend, working on a project, every moment becomes a sacred act. But this will not always be easy. The ego will try to reclaim its throne. The noise of the world will try to drown out the voice of the divine. But remember, the light within you can never be extinguished. It can only be momentarily covered. Now, as you move forward, remember this: you are infinite, you are eternal, you are complete. The path to awakening is already before you, but only you can take the first step. Now tell me, which truth resonated most deeply with you? Leave your reflection in the comments. I love reading your experiences and sharing this awakening together. If this message spoke to you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Who knows, maybe this truth will reach exactly the person who has been searching for it. And one more thing, don't leave just yet. There's another piece of content on your screen right now that will help you take the next step on your journey of self-discovery. Now, as we reach the end of this revealing expedition, I want to express my deepest gratitude to you for staying with us until the end. Your dedication and curiosity are the fuel that drives us to explore, demystify, and share these intriguing stories. I want to share something special with you. As a fan of the Map of Higher Self channel, you are about to embark on a unique journey of self-discovery and mental formation. I present to you the Map of Higher Self, a revolutionary ebook that will redefine your mental reality. As the creator of this content and leader of the Map of Higher Self channel, I'm sharing my deepest experiences and valuable lessons with you. Each chapter of this ebook is a reflection of my journey, filled with practical lessons I've lived and transformed into wisdom. Don't miss this opportunity to transform your life. Click the link in the pinned comment and start your journey towards self-knowledge and positivity today. Imagine yourself for a moment as one of the ancient explorers who ventured into unknown territories, guided only by the flame of curiosity and the thirst for knowledge. Every piece of information, every symbol deciphered, is like a map leading us deeper into the labyrinth of the unknown. And just like those explorers, you too are now a little closer to the truth, carrying with you a new understanding of the forces that shape our world. Your presence here is not just a personal achievement, but a valuable contribution to a vibrant community of curious and knowledge-seeking individuals. Every view, every comment, every like is a step we take together toward a deeper and collective understanding. You are not just a spectator, you are a partner in this journey of discovery. So, as we close this chapter, I invite you to reflect on today's revelations and prepare for the next steps. We will continue unraveling secrets, questioning established truths, and exploring the mysteries around us. Your participation is essential, not just for the growth of this channel, but for the expansion of our horizon of knowledge. Until the next discovery. And remember, the real power lies in questioning and understanding what is beyond the visible. And before you go, don't miss these 2 videos I've selected especially for you. They're packed with deep knowledge and fascinating discoveries that you'll love. Click on one of them and continue your journey of self-discovery and the pursuit of wisdom with the amazing content our channel has to offer.